Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks all for attending this meeting tonight of the South Ribble Borough Council Cabinet, held today on Wednesday, the 14th of September, 2022. Darren, I'm getting a little bit of feedback from somewhere here. Is there all the computers switched off? Jackie, is that feedback bothering you? Or should we continue? No? Okay, we'll just let Claire, just bear with us, everyone that's online. We're just going to deal with this feedback because it is, I can hear it. No, slightly worse. So has any members of in the room got dialed into the meeting on the iPads? No? Right, we'll try and work through it because it's we need to make progress. Right, before we do proceed to business this evening, clearly we're in an official period of mourning at the moment following the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who sadly passed away last week on Thursday, the 8th of September 2022. What I'm going to ask now is that all members of Cabinet and officers and members present in the Civic Centre stand if you are able to and you wish to, and we'll observe a minute's silence in the memory of Her Majesty the Queen. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We obviously send our deepest condolences to the royal family, and I'd like to publicly thank the officers and all members of South Ribble for the support and work over the past few days, which has been extremely challenging for one and all. We'll now proceed with the meeting. Welcome, everyone, and for those that don't know me, my name is Councillor Paul Foster, and I'm the leader of the council, and I'm the chair of the Cabinet. Councillor Mick Titherington is the vice chair and deputy leader, and is present here in the Civic Centre. All members of the Cabinet are present tonight in the Civic Centre, and also present with us are the statutory officers and directors required to support the meeting. Other members of the council present at the Civic Centre should please switch on their microphone to indicate they wish to speak at the appropriate time. When they are finished speaking, please do ensure you switch your microphone off. Members of the council who have dialed in via the Teams function are asked to keep their microphone on mute during the meeting and use the raise your hand function to indicate a request to speak, and I'll call you in at the appropriate time. Again, if you could then mute your computer after you have finished speaking, that would be helpful. Reports will be presented by the relevant portfolio holder, after which I'll bring the item into Cabinet for discussion and debate. Once Cabinet has considered the item, I will then invite comments from other members of the council. After all members of the council have been invited to ask questions on any agenda item, any members of the public in attendance here at the Civic Centre will be invited to ask questions, and I can report that there are no members of the public present. Please do note that this meeting is recorded and live streamed live on YouTube, and the web link for this is displayed on the agenda for the meeting. We'll now move forward to the first item on the agenda, which is the apologies for absence. There are clearly no apologies for absence, as all Cabinet are present. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members of the Cabinet have any declarations of interest? No. Agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes of the last meeting held on the 13th of July 2022 are attached and signed as a correct, to be signed, sorry, as a correct record. Do any members of the Cabinet have any questions or queries regarding the minutes? No. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Titherington. Any members not on Cabinet have any questions regarding the minutes? No, so they've been proposed and seconded. Are we happy for me to sign them off? Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Jackie?
It doesn't relate to this item, it relates to the last one. I'm not so sure whether I'm not supposed to declare a potential disclosable pecuniary interest.
Thanks, Jackie. I do believe, I understand that the declarations of interest are only pertinent to the members of the committee. However, your declaration of a pecuniary interest is noted for the agenda item. Help me out here. It's the, where are we at? 10. Yep. That's noted, Jackie. Thank you. Right, moving on is the agenda item 4, notice of executive decisions and the Cabinet forward plan. The meaty document, as colleagues are all aware of now, gives us our business through till basically for the remainder of the year and details out everything that we'll be up to. So are there any questions or comments from members of the Cabinet? We're asked to note this. No. Again, I'll just remind everybody that this is a live document and the best way to access it is via the council's intranet, where you get, because it literally is updated on a daily basis, and the link is actually contained within the body of the agenda as well. So we're asked to note it. Any questions or queries from members not on Cabinet on our forward plan? No? Right, okay, that's duly noted, yep. Right, agenda item 5 is the Q1 Performance Monitoring Report 2022-23. Now, bear with me a second, colleagues, because I've got this on the iPad. Right, so colleagues will note that this is the first monitoring report of the final year of this current executive, but generally progress is good. We're making good progress in every area of business that we are looking at as authority. The Scrutiny, Budget and Performance Panel was due to review this for us on Monday, but due to the current circumstances we find ourselves in, that meeting was one of a number that has had to be postponed, so we have no comments this time from the Scrutiny, Budget and Performance Panel. As we work through the report, there is an awful lot of information contained within, and I don't intend to do a line-by-line review as we don't normally do, but I'll just pick out some of the exceptional items that as reported. So the Exemplary Council, basically one of the major projects is completed and the other 3 are rated green, so there are no concerns for the Cabinet there. The Thriving Communities agenda, we've got 1 completed project and again another 3 rated green, so there are no major concerns there. It has been highlighted under one of the KPIs that we've not reached the targeted number of new customers for our credit union, but we understand the reasons why, and there has been a hard push this quarter to rectify that, and we're quite satisfied actually that given the current financial circumstances that we find ourselves in, that we should quickly be able to deal with that in a positive manner. Under the fair local economy that works for everyone, we've got the 2 projects rated green and there's the 1 amber, and colleagues will all be aware that we have the reason that the town deal is rated amber is that we've yet to receive any formal feedback from government in respect to our bid, and we were expecting to receive that feedback back at the end of June, early July of this year. The officers, I can report, have been in constant dialogue with the BEIS team, and we do understand that the delay is due in part to the political changes down at Westminster, shall we say. But we are now actively seeking feedback from the new Secretary of State, and hopefully we'll have some more positive news on the town deal moving forward. This is a critical project for the local authority, and we must ensure that government continues to support it. We've had a significant financial outlay, and we need to see those returns. And finally, there's two final points from me, sorry. Under the Green Homes, Green Spaces and Healthy Places, all 4 major corporate projects are rated green for that. And there's finally on page, let me find it, there's a comment, sorry, within the report regarding the regarding Gateway and the performance of the telephones, particularly the answering, because we're acutely aware as a team that we've had some challenges with the introduction of the new processes in Gateway, the new telephone systems, and the other challenges that we've had. And the report within here does indicate that there's quite some substantial challenges that the team were facing. What I am happy to report is, again, remember, this is a look back from quite a few months ago, that there has been a significant improvement, and we're confident that when the next quarterly report is published for us in 3 months, that you will all see a significant improvement on the calls. And finally, a major concern that you will pick up within the report is the issue of homelessness. We are seeing a spike, a really concerning spike in the number of people declaring themselves homeless within the borough, but we're also then seeing that there is particular challenges in rehousing these individuals as well. So we are not achieving the government set targets on both the number of people that we're having to house temporarily and the length of stay that people are having to stay in temporary accommodation. It is a priority, and we're doing everything we possibly can to deal with this. But unfortunately, I do have to report to Cabinet that I think this matter and this issue is going to get significantly worse before it gets better. And we do need government intervention again, and we'll be writing to them to try and achieve this. So on that, do we have any questions from any colleagues? Councillor Titherington.
No, it's not a question. It's just, I think you're right, Leader, to highlight the issue in relation to homelessness. And like you, I fear that in the future, near future and significant future, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to reach these targets because of an increasing demand for housing with a reduction in the available properties. So we are entering a fairly challenging period with the cost of living crisis and everything else, but we will endeavour to do what we can to ensure that we can get those figures down reasonably and help those that are in need. But I think we have to say to Cabinet and Council, it is a major challenge given the circumstances that we now find ourselves in.
Yeah, absolutely, Mick. Totally agree. Thank you. Anyone else on Cabinet have anything to say? No. So we're asked to note the report. Members not on Cabinet. Any comments from members not on Cabinet on the performance report for Q1? No. Right. So we're asked to note the report and comment. We've done that. So let's move on. Right. So agenda item 6 is the capital and balance sheet monitoring report for Q1, and agenda item 7 is the revenue budget monitoring report for Q1. And I'm going to ask Councillor Matthew Tomlinson to deal with both together, please.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, this is a snapshot of where we were at the end of July now, so things have moved on a bit. But again, it is only a snapshot, and it's Q1, another 3 quarters to go. So there could be some significant changes, but it's right that we keep an eye on things. Certainly, as far as the capital programme is concerned, there has been some movement. I think the major thing to report is people will recall that council voted for significant sums of money to be spent at Fox Lane Sports Club and at Penworth and Priory Academy, and that's included in this report. And then people can see Appendix A and B where the variations are. When it comes to the revenue report, all things being equal, at the 31st of July, we were forecasting an underspend by the end of this year of 2.76 million. But since then, of course, we've heard about the national pay award that is proposed, not yet agreed, but proposed for the staff, a flat rate increase for everybody, which averages out for us at about 7% of the total wage bill. We'd only forecast for a 2% increase in wages. So if and when that is agreed, that will significantly change things for us. And as you can see from the report, if it is agreed, then we are now looking at a budget pressure. Instead of saving 200,000 plus, we're looking at a budget pressure of around 450,000, not 4.5. Sorry, keep calm, everybody. 450,000 pounds. Interestingly, and this is only a projection, of course, who knows where we'll be. Maybe there'll be some shaking of the magic money tree in central government and the wage increase will be funded. But at the moment, the government are not saying they'll give us any money for it. If all that happens, we don't get money and the pay increase is agreed at 7%, and our current projections are we may go down below the £4 million mark for the general reserve, which is something we agreed is the right figure to have. So there is a conversation to be had as time goes on around that. But as I say, it is Q1. You'll see across the directorates there's minor underspends and overspends, and they are identified and explained. I always report to scrutiny the current staffing vacancies, and you can see the pressure there is in the recruitment market in that list. So we endeavour best efforts to get those jobs filled, but there are still a number of vacancies across the organisation. So again, this is for noting. There are a number of recommendations which I'm happy to read out if the leader forces me to. But other than that, I'm happy to propose the recommendations to Cabinet as at page 57 and as at page 75.
Thanks, Matthew. I think for thoroughness, in a second, just when we finish it, when we close out, so you'd have to do it twice. We should. I think it's always good practice to read out the recommendations we are voting on, so we're all absolutely clear on that. I think on both the reports, there's an awful lot of information, and thank you for how it's presented clearly to Cabinet and Council. I think singularly the biggest shot across the bow, and rightly so, is the National Pay Award, and we'll make it clear that this Cabinet and this Executive supports our staff, and our staff has been subject to very, very, very poor treatment over a number of years by central government in respect to the pay freezes that they've had to endure. So the 7% pay rise, I think we need to note, is still under the rate of inflation. And I think it's also fair to point out, because I know the public are watching this as well, that the unions have yet to agree this pay award. So it is subject to the agreement of the unions and the staff. We have to have some government intervention here. We need to publicly state that. We are fortunate that this administration has managed the budgets really well over the last 3-4 years at this council, and we are, and we're in a strong position, and we have no debt. Some of our partner authorities in Lancashire will go under with this pay award because they just do not have the money to support to support it. So government must intervene. And I think, did you say about £650,000 per annum? Is that what the suggested increase is going to be to our budget instantly? By what's that, about 1.5%, 1.75%? No, it's even more. It's about, would that be a 10%? No, what's that when we put that to 6%? Yeah,
Not far. Yeah.
It's not for between 8 and 10% increase in council tax, if you want to put it into perspective. So it's not good, but it's good for the staff, but it's not good for the council's budget. So we have to have, and we will continue to push for government intervention to support us. Any other questions for Councillor Tomlinson in respect to the budget monitoring and the revenue budget monitoring, Gary?
Yeah, I wondered if Councillor Tomlinson might want to comment on utilities and the impact that might have. I think that's another cost pressure item that probably needs to be drawn to the attention of the cabinet.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare people too much, but obviously utility costs are not costed in this. And, you know, when you look at our leisure centres, our big six, I mean, we've got the decarbonisation programme coming, which will undoubtedly help in the medium term. But in the short term, there's undoubtedly going to be added cost pressures through energy bills. And I am aware, just as what the leader was saying about lobbying government, certainly from the LGA, there's a lot of work going on. And if you look at some of the bigger authorities, Lancashire County Council, for instance, reporting last week of the significant impact this is going to have on their budget, to the extent where, you know, most of the savings that they've made over the last 10 years is simply going to be wiped out, and the council will find the county council will find itself back where it was, facing a budget gap once again, unless there is some support for these pay awards. But you're quite right, the staff deserve the rise, and there is an argument. I'm a member of Unison, and they are balloting. I have my ballot paper this week, and so they are asking their members, and whilst the local branch is non-committal, nationally they are recommending members to refuse. So it could well be that there's a settlement even higher.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, I had another question to come.
Any more questions from members of cabinet? Jay?
I was just, sorry, thanks, Chair. I was just going to make a comment. I think it's a good point, which I was going to raise the utilities one, because we're just a reflection of what's happening in people's lives, aren't we? It's their money, it's not our money. We collect the money, administer it. So it's an important point which Gary's raised about the utilities, and Matt said the impact, because that impact is going to be on people as well. But also in terms of the recruitment, don't think that it's not a place people want to work. I've just been to the police commissioners meeting. The police force are having issues about recruitment. We had a round table meeting. Businesses are having issues about recruitment. Post-COVID, you're seeing lots of sectors and lots of industries having problems with recruiting people for whatever reasons. So it's not that we're not trying, and it's not that we're not a good employer. It's just the way things are at the moment. So thanks. Cheers.
Thanks, Jay. Interestingly, you raised the PCC, because I should have acutely been aware of this, but I wasn't until I was presented it the other night. The community, the South Ribble community, pay more to the Police and Crime Commissioner than they do to South Ribble Borough Council on an annual basis. And I found that astonishing. I really did, because you look at the number of police stations and number of police officers, for example, and this isn't a criticism of the police. I fully support the police and the difficult job that they do. But I'm not sure that the residents of South Ribble are actually acutely aware that all the work that this authority does for them and with them, they pay less to us than they do to the Police and Crime Commissioner. And it's maybe that's a message that we do need to get out. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Leader. Just an interesting, just because you've mentioned it, and I was there this afternoon with Councillor Walton, the Chief Constable in a presentation about value for money, the service, how they do, how they work in our communities. And this afternoon he's announced 80% of all calls they got are mental health issues. They're not direct policing issues. And he said, and the problem they've got, and he did say, obviously, it's a bigger issue than just policing. But I think that's worth us noting and bringing it back in, because that referral for where mental health issues are being referred to is diminishing because of the funding nationally. So I think it's something which we probably need to be aware of and pick up and support the new Chief Constable, really. Cheers.
Thanks, Jay. Any other comments from Cabinet colleagues? Any comments from from members not on Cabinet? Councillor Keith Martin.
Thank you, Leader. With regard to the pay claim, it's justified and right that unions make that claim. Although there may be a worry of the impact on the budget, that money does get spent in their local community when they get it. So if you look at the Preston model, so it's about 60p for every pound will go back into the community. So we will, there is a benefit from this, even though it might not look it.
Thanks, Keith. Any other members? Nobody remotely asking any questions? Good. Right, so Councillor Tomlinson, can you just please go through, there's two separate papers here. There's the capital and balance sheet monitoring report, and then separately the revenue budget monitoring report. Can we take capital and balance sheet recommendations first, please?
I'm glad you chose them first because that's the page I've got open on my tablet. Page 57, it's agenda item 6, and the recommendations to Cabinet are to approve the revised capital programme as attached at Appendix A, which includes approved amendments to the programme as detailed at point 11, since the last capital monitoring report was approved by Cabinet in June 22. To note the variations to the programme, which are detailed by scheme at Appendix B and referenced within the body of the report, and to note the position in the balance sheet monitoring section of the report in respect of cash, investment and loan balances and debtors as at the 31st of July 2022. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. I'm more than happy to second that. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. So we'll then move on, if we can, to the revenue budget monitoring report. Matthew, if you can read out recommendations for that.
And this is agenda item 7, and thankfully the recommendations are somewhat more concise than at the last report. The recommendations to Cabinet are to note the forecast outturn for revenue and the level of reserves based on the position as at the 31st of July 2022, and to note the variance made to and from the revenue budget during the period as detailed in Appendix 2 of the report.
Thanks, Matthew. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Belinsky-Gelders seconded that. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thanks, Matthew. So moving on, it was stick with Councillor Tomlinson, and we've got the Worden Park Improvement Plan, agenda item 8.
Yeah, if you just give me a sec, that came through separately on modern.gov. So if you're using your tablet, it came through as a supplementary item. The first thing to say is I'm delighted to be able to announce that our 3 main parks have all retained their green flag status this year, which means, of course, Worden Park remains the only park north of Watford to have had a green flag ever since the scheme was introduced. And I'd like to congratulate all our staff on the work that goes into getting those awards. Just as an aside, I have asked the staff to now look at applying for green flag status for 2 more of our parks, Withy Grove Park in Bamber Bridge, which I'm hoping we can do next year, and then Farrington Park in Farrington, who both seem to meet the criteria. But I think it's if we're applying for green flags for some parks and we think there are others that might get the award as well, we might as well go for it. But when it comes to this report for Werden Park, this is for Cabinet to agree the proposed scope of some project proposals. These have already been agreed. The funding for these has already been agreed in the budget. So this is to bring the money down and allow the staff to get on with it. If you look at the plan, which sadly modern.gov doesn't translate that well, most of this is about footpath improvements. There are an awful lot of footpaths through the park, some of which are now beginning to show some wear and tear. And we will have to make some tweaks to some of the paths to allow for the fact that we're now hoping a significant number of people are going to be wanting to access Werden Hall, which of course was left boarded up for 7 years and so didn't attract any traffic at all. But as I say, it shows our commitment, our further commitment to Werden Park, around about £500,000. This is going to end up costing, but right from paths to the duck pond and the playground, to paths through the formal gardens and around the maze. And then if you're looking at the map, you'll see what looks like a yellow, well, it is a crossroads marked in yellow, and that's the main crossroads in the middle of the park where most of the traffic is. So, as I say, a sign of this executive's further commitment to one of our green flag parks, And I think that the public of Leyland and South Ribble will be grateful for the works that we do.
Thanks, Matthew. I think it's really exciting news, and it's within the report, I think, isn't it? Worden's the only park outside of London that's held its green flag for all those years since I think it was the 1990s. I think it's important to point out as well that there has been and there is currently significant investment in all our other parks as we're sat here, and that we've got some significant works in Withy Grove and Hurst Grange that we're looking to complete in the next in the short term and to be fair, running through next year as well. But it is imperative that we continue to invest in our facilities, and every single time you go down to Withy Grove, Hurst Grange or Worden, they're always rammed packed with our local residents. So we have a duty to ensure that they're the best they can possibly be. And it fits in perfectly with our health and wellbeing agenda as well and our green links. So I'm more than happy to endorse the comments from Councillor Tomlinson. Any questions from any colleagues on Cabinet? No? Any questions or comments from any members not on Cabinet? Councillor Caleb Tomlinson.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Just a comment, really. I'd like to congratulate you for Worden Park, obviously. And I'm absolutely delighted that we were playing for a green flag for Withy Grove Park in Bamber Bridge. Absolutely delighted. Thanks.
Thanks, Caleb. Councillor Wharton-Hardman.
Likewise, obviously Worden Park's managed to maintain its flag for many years, which is fantastic. But one of the questions I often wonder is, would it have continued to maintain its flag if the significant investment hadn't been made? Because it did undergo many years of basically it's good, so we'll just leave it as it is. So the investment which has been brought forward will ensure, hopefully, that it retains its green flag for many, many more years to come. Secondly, I'd also like to obviously thank the announcement which has been made that Farrington Park would be looked at potentially for green flag. It is a fantastic local asset, one which obviously Councillor Nolte and I utilised recently for a fun day for the community. So it would be fantastic to see that get a green flag as well.
Thank you, Paul. What's the saying? I'm not very good with proverbs. Time stands still for no one. So unless we continually invest, then these assets, is that right? I don't know. I've got a book of proverbs at home because I keep getting these wrong. I know. And I'm just sat here now thinking that isn't the saying, but you know what I mean. Maybe this is a new book of proverbs that I might start writing. Oh, I knew I should have shut up. Never mind. But we all get the gist. Look, we've got to invest in our facilities and our assets because we've got to maintain them to a minimum standard for our community. And I promise I'll bring the book in for the council meeting. Any questions? Any more questions for anyone? No. Anyone dialing in? Darren? No. Right. So, Mark, can you just go through the two recommendations again quickly? We'll get voted on.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's time and tide. Wait for no man, but we'll forgive you. Bring your book in. And as for Withy Grove, what's delayed us, interestingly, for applying for the green flag there, is the works being done to the footbridge over the railway. We needed that to be completed, really. So that's why I'm thinking we can go and for a green flag there first. But it is a good, it's a nice mark to have and a nice flag to fly above your park as well. But as far as this agenda item 8, Worden Park Improvement Plan is concerned, the recommendations are to Cabinet that we review the attached plan and agree the proposed scope of the project and outline proposals, and that we agree for a public consultation event within the park to canvass the views of the public on the proposed master plan. And the idea would be to have that in the new entrance to Worden Hall. So it might be one of the first chances that the public get to actually step foot in the hall. So that would be a nice event too.
Yep, thanks, Matthew. And I think there's a formal opening event for Worden Hall, just as you mentioned it, next Friday, I think it is. And any member or member of the public that has not yet been to the hall, get yourselves down there because it is truly wonderful. And I'll think of a proverb for that when I speak next Friday, I promise. Right, so Councillor Tomlinson has made those proposals. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Belinsky-Gelder, all those in favour? That's unanimous. Right. Unfortunately now we need to moving to part 2 into private session. So I have to propose for the exclusion, of the press and public. Mick, you happy to second it? Seconded. Are all cabinet